I'm at a point where it doesn't matter if you're 5 years old, 13, or 72. There's always a teachable moment, and if you do it with compassion and caring, then it absorbs, and then usually your singers feel stronger about it, and they make better music.
Who are you going to call when you need a conductor? For the past 30 years, Hawaii choral groups have been calling on Nola Nahulu. This talented teacher and musician is known for making singers sound good, in church, in school, and on stage. Nola Nahulu's story is next on Long Story Short.
Long Story Short with Leslie Wilcox is Hawaii's first weekly television program produced and broadcast in high definition.
Aloha mai kako. I'm Leslie Wilcox. Choral music plays a vital role in Hawaii's artistic, spiritual, and cultural life, and many of our choral singers look to conductor Nola Nahulu. Her talent, commitment, and ability to bring out the best in singers of all ages have attracted opportunities to direct Hawaii's storied choral groups. Thousands of former students and singers can trace their vocal roots and music appreciation to their work with Nola over the past 3 decades. Conductors are usually seen from behind and are rarely in the spotlight. In this edition of Long Story Short, we ask Nola Nahulu to face the camera and take us along on her musical life's journey. What was your early childhood like? What's your first memory, and where was it?
Well, it's in Waianae. My sister and I went to Waianae Elementary School. And to date us, that's because there was no Makaha Elementary School at the time. Parents would wake us up in Makaha. We would drop off at our Obachan's house because she lived right across the street. And the routine was go Obachan's house, have breakfast, go school, go back to Obachan's house, have guava ice cake that she would have made, and then go to Japanese school.
Where was Japanese school?
Japanese school was at the Waianae Honganji. And everybody went, you know. Sometimes we even got to ride our bikes there. And for those now, in this day and age, it's right behind the McDonald's in Waianae. But at that time, it was an open-air theater. Waianae town had 2 theaters. One regular theater house that was covered, and the other one that was open air.
I mean, was it a drive-in theater?
No, it wasn't a drive-in. There was just no roof. And there were seats, wooden seats, and the screen.
Wow.
Yeah, and around 4th, 5th grade, we had the opportunity to take piano lessons. I keep on saying we because my sister and I got afforded the same opportunities. So we took piano.
Did you take piano because that's what it was a good thing to do, or because you had a yearning desire to take piano?
You know, our parents said, "Do you want to take piano?" And we said yes.
Really? Because I said, no, I have no desire to take piano when I was a kid.
We had nothing to gauge against. It was an opportunity that came up, and there was a piano teacher that moved into Waianae, and so they asked, "Do you?" And we were, "Yeah, okay." And then we actually got a piano. And we know that was a big sacrifice. Mm-hmm. But one day a piano showed up in our house, and we know that our parents invested in that, so we got to take piano.
What was your parents' background?
Dad's from Nanakuli. Nanakuli via Lualuale via Laia.
Okay.
And my mom's Waianae plantation. My grandmother, my maternal grandmother, is a picture bride. Yeah, so she came over early 1900s as a picture bride.
So your mom was Japanese. Was your dad full Hawaiian?
He's full Hawaiian. And my mom's Hiroshima Ken.
How many Hawaiian Japanese families were there around you?
Not many.
Not a common combination back then.
Not a common combination. It is an odd combination.
Was there any feeling between sides of the family?
Oh, I know at first the Japanese were very concerned about my mother marrying a Hawaiian. Of course, you need to realize the Hawaiian-Japanese combination is pretty cute when they're babies, and we were the first 2 grandchildren, so it seemed to work. We never felt any kind of resistance being brought up. We were always cared for and loved. And
did you grow up with a sense of, like as many part Hawaiians do now, you know, I have to learn my Hawaiian culture, my Hawaiian values?
No. And let me say no because we were learning them. It wasn't like I needed to learn them. Both sides, Hawaiian and Japanese, we were learning the culture from our family and from community activities. And we were learning who we are. I didn't have to say I am Hawaiian or I am Japanese.
You didn't have to choose.
No. To this day, I'm both. I'm from Keikio-Ka'aina, I'm from Hawaii, you know.
And I notice when you talk about values that are important to you, you use a Japanese expression.
I do, okage-sama de, because I do believe that we are influenced, or our lives are influenced by those around us. So whether it's our immediate biological family or it's our community family, you know, so-and-so's mother is your auntie, whether they're biologically related to you or not. And then, of course, if they happen to be of a Chinese family, you learn all their cultural values too. So I really, and I also think it goes into your workplace, your colleagues, your staff. It's very important.
It sounds like your parents were actively trying to do things for the girls to help you get ahead, learn.
Now that we look back, they afforded us opportunities. Something as simple as having piano lessons. I know this sounds really weird, but also having ballet lessons. Think about it. Waianae at the Honganji, and then they moved to Pilila'o Park. If you that's kind of odd. Most people go, what? You took ballet at Pilila'o Park? And we're like, yeah, you know. Because a teacher took time to drive to Waianae and afford that for us so that we could have experiences.
At what point along the way did you find out that music was very special to you? Was it the piano lessons? Was it before?
You don't realize it because you're having it all the time. We had a very good general music teacher at Waianae Elementary School, Mrs. Keaka. So we got a lot of basics. We assumed everybody got it, and everybody did. Not so now. And Fred Catrola, who loved singing, was a teacher there. So he decided that Waianae Elementary School should have their own song contest. So we did. And we went to Kamehameha in 7th grade, continued with our piano. We sang in the choral groups there.
You were in a big class at Kamehameha, one of the baby booming classes.
Yes.
Were you the song leader?
No.
For the song contest?
No, I wasn't. Senior year, I got to conduct the entire school with Kamehameha Walls. But our song directors for the girls was Teresa Makuakane, Drexel now, and our co-ed was Ron Chun, and our boys was Aaron Mahi.
Who became the Royal Hawaiian Band leader?
Yeah.
But where were you?
I was the garut. We were the gang that were doing all the sectionals and preparing. Because in that era, the class, we had to provide our own leaders in teaching the music.
So you were very much involved, but just at a different
capacity.
Yeah, a different facet of it.
Yeah, we were pounding notes. Still pounding notes. Yeah.
Still pounding notes.
Yeah.
Nola Nahulu majored in psychology at Whitman College in Washington State. She continued to pursue her music studies and eventually earned a master's degree in music education from the University of Hawaii at Manoa. What did you learn about conducting?
It didn't really start fine-tuning until graduate work, because then my focus was on conducting specifically. And I did some postgraduate work at University of Washington, and there I met Rodney Eichenberger, who is still a mentor to this day. I get to a point where I would listen to a choir and go, why do they sound that way? Whether they were good or bad. And then I looked at the conductor and I realized, oof, it's a lot of responsibility. Because I remember thinking in high school, oh, I can do this. Who cannot do this? But when you're a kid, you don't realize, oh, you actually have to be able to hear what's happening. And how do you create the sound?
I don't know what it's like to be on that side. How do you conduct?
It is much more than beating pattern. I've decided that we can actually shape sound, just by what we do with our face, our body, and our arms. And we can shape all the way through performances instead of getting it so robotic. Especially for choral music, then the lyrics make more sense with the music. And we continue to learn because each group that we get, it's always going to be different.
And are there groups that you just can't make headway with?
No, because I'm an educator. That's what I've decided.
But sometimes it's not a musical problem. It may be a personality problem.
Personality or a discipline problem, a self-discipline problem. So then you teach them discipline, how to control yourself, your mind. My thought is, as a conductor, if they sound great, that's because of you. If they sound terrible, that's because of you.
Oh, you do blame yourself. I thought you were going to say it's because of them.
No, it is. And I think as an educator too, we can't always say, well, that kid's autistic, he's never going to learn. Or nobody reinforces at home. It's still your kuleana, So if they do well, it's you. And if they don't, it's you too.
And do you know what everybody's doing even though you've got a bunch of people there?
Yeah, well, I do now. I didn't when I was younger, and that's part of the learning process. Can you hear 4 parts? Can you hear 8 parts? And
all at the same time.
Yeah.
You can do that?
That's so I can now. Like I said, it's something that you need to develop. There's, can you play the piano and sing at the same time? Can you play one part and sing another part?
How did your musical career develop? I mean, even in college, you were planning to be a psychologist? You majored in psychology?
I did. And at one point, I was actually going to do my master's in psychology. But as my master's graduate advisor said, well, you're going to use a lot of psychology in music, especially music education. I am a believer in fate. When I came home and I went to UH Manoa, Dorothy Gillette was still there teaching. And she said, this civic club needs a new choir director because their choir director is going to law school. I said, okay. I don't know if I have the ability yet, but I said, okay, I'll go check it out. And that was back in, I think, 77. So I'm still their choral director, Pearl Harbor Hawaiian Civic Club. I learned a lot from that.
Just as soon as Nola Nahulu picked up a baton, she was picking up her phone as well because offers started rolling in. Nola accepted invitations to teach and conduct at the University of Hawaii, University High School, the Molokai Children's Chorus, Hawaii Children's Chorus, and the Hawaii Youth Opera Chorus, just to name a few.
That's it. Could you crescendo, sopranos, crescendo your long notes, your half notes and your dotted half? Presently, I'm the executive and artistic director of the Hawaii Youth Opera Chorus. This is my 25th year, and it's their 50th year. Eileen started them, Eileen Lum, in 1961. And she gave me a call and asked if I would take over. So that was a step in fate also.
You've never applied for anything to date in your story.
Not yet. Not yet.
You just keep picking up the phone.
That's right. I never thought about it that way. I have applied for a few things, but 7 years before that, I had just graduated, got my master's. I was teaching at Kamehameha. My classmate, Kalena Silva, calls. He happens to be Eileen Lum's nephew. Hey, Nola, because we were both in master's work together. My auntie, she started a children's course on Molokai, but she has to come back to Oahu. I said, oh, and? Would you consider doing that? And I said, I really don't know how to do anything with children's choruses, but I'll try. So I learned about children's voices. I also learned that it doesn't matter what language you teach them, because as far as they're concerned, sky's the limit. So we always sang Molokai songs. We sang in German, Italian, Latin. They were charming. They're great. They loved to sing. Every Wednesday after school, we rehearsed for 3 hours. Can you imagine? So 7 years later, when Eileen again said, I'm ready to retire, will you take this over? I at least had experience, and I could do something with the voice and the repertoire for the kids. So that's the Hawaii Youth Opera Chorus. And since then, we've grown tenfold, numbers-wise, and staff-wise. We're very music education based, and we're K through 12.
You also have been at the lead in one of the most respected and revered historic churches in the islands, Kawaiaha'o.
Yes. It's been 21 years, actually.
You don't do anything for a short amount of time, do you?
I make a commitment usually. Yeah, I think the shortest was 7 years.
Yeah, that's such a historic church. I'm trying to think of who are some of the other people who've been influential in the choir there.
Well, my predecessor as choir director, Senator Makaha, who, by the way, when he comes home, comes up and sings. Wow. David Kalama, at least for 30 plus years. And of course, Lili Okalani.
Wow.
I know, it's kind of spooky.
And Bernice Pauahi Bishop.
Bernice Pauahi Bishop.
The first time Nola Nahulu received a call from Kawaiaha'o Church, she did not feel ready as the conductor to join that historic lineup of luminaries. But a few years later, she was invited to take the choir on a European tour, and that became a tryout for a permanent position.
David Kalama transcribed the major choral works of like the Messiah or Mendelssohn's Elijah into Hawaiian. They never sang it in English, only in Hawaiian. In addition, he was a prolific composer, so there are tons of anthems. And it's all hand manuscript. So I'd be conducting, rehearsing, and go, this is not what's on the paper. They go, oh no, Uncle David changed it. Oh, but you didn't, no, we never changed them on the paper, but this is, I said, okay, all right.
So you were onto this. You stuck with this gig.
Well, you know what, I committed, and they only committed to the tour, but after the tour, they invited me to join them in September. So that's what I did.
In addition to taking the helm of existing choral groups, Nola Nahulu started a new one, Kawaiaha'o na Pukani Leo, an adult a cappella ensemble dedicated to perpetuating Hawaiian choral music. Her many musical endeavors have taken Nola around the world and also allowed her to share Hawaiian culture with musicians on the U.S. continent and abroad.
What we all have in common is we all know the Western European repertoire and the musical basis that comes from. But if they're from, for example, we get to go to Austria in June. It's our 50th anniversary. We're learning Mozart's Coronation Mass. We're going to work with a German conductor. When people come here or they see us, they want to learn Pacific Rim stuff. They want to learn Hawaiian things. And so we can share the culture that way.
Nola Nahulu is also helping to perpetuate local fashion in her side job as co-owner of a mu'umu'u design and manufacturing company. Though they took radically different career paths in music and medicine, Nola and her sister Linda came together to follow their mother's footsteps into the dressmaking business. They purchased Bere Mu'u in 1994 from then-owner Rene Kubo.
We went into their production room, and it was like being in our Obachan's kitchen because the Japanese radio was going on. Most of the seamstress were Japanese, some Chinese. The cutters, Japanese because they happen to be Mrs. Kubo's nieces. We felt very comfortable. We talked story with her. She's from Lahaina. Talked story. Literally 3 days later, she said, You both can have the company.
So she was selecting a buyer.
Yes, because she had already gone through several.
What did she want? What was she looking for?
Number one, I think she needed to feel comfortable. And that she would have confidence that they would continue the line in its purity. So keeping the tradition going. I mean, literally 3 days, she goes, okay, you folks can have it. And she also told us later that Betty Manchester always wanted to be Hawaiian owned. So it kind of fit. You know, we went in with it knowing that we wanted to keep the tradition alive and to keep it going, and knew that we would have a really high learning curve, very steep.
So how has it gone with Betty Mu'u?
You know what? We have learned a lot. It's still tough. It's pretty tough. Not many people wear mu'us anymore, and there's still the misconception of that it has to be huge and big. But it's been a totally different door opening in our lives. So we're hanging in there. We're still producing.
When did Betty Mu'u become Betty Pantsuit? Because that's what you're wearing.
I know. They make these long pants for me. And so I know I need to tell my cutters that we need to get it out. On my artistic side, what you have on makes a big difference too, on how you do act. Whether you're in a meeting or like she said, you're not going to go out on a baseball field in a Betty Mu'u, because that's not the appropriate place to wear it, you know.
So do you wear them when you conduct?
I do.
Because it makes you feel more appropriate and poised and calm?
Absolutely. And it's kind of cute, actually. My cutters and my staff make sure that the back of it looks the best. Because as a conductor, that's what people look at, is my back.
Have you seen a decline in choral groups?
You know, there has been, and it's kind of a catch-22. I know through the 60s, strong, all the way through Roosevelt, strong. I also think that's part of the era of strong general music coming up through, strong music programs, not only choral, orchestral, as well as band. But there was a decline, and I'm sure it's budgetary, where positions were cut.
You don't think it's lack of interest?
Oh, no, I don't think so. You know, students were choosing not to major in it because there were no jobs to be had. So therefore, then we lost competent people. And then when positions come up again, we don't have the staffing. I will say, though, we have some young directors out there that are doing some great jobs. They're building their programs, and there's a commitment. And so I see there's a little light at the end of the tunnel.
In this period, we've seen the demise of the Honolulu Symphony as it existed. I mean, and we've seen a reduction in music and arts education. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about music getting cut as if it's, you know, not a priority subject?
Yeah, don't get me started. It is a priority, and you know, it's not just the learning of the notes or the learning of rhythm and those concepts. That's part of it. That's an important part. But I think more on the self-esteem of a child, self-actualization of a child, and what effect it has growing up into adulthood. I think our generation, I know my parents' generation, you got a good job, you stayed in it 30, 40 years, you retired, pow. You know, my dad went back to farming, which is what his family does. But I think for my generation, we have so many interests, and so we get to do different things. And it's not unusual to do something for 15 years. And, oh, but I like doing that, so I'm going to learn how to do that and do that for another 15 years. Some of us do it simultaneously. That's a little nuts, but I think I've been my sister too, I think we've been very fortunate in that. We were afforded the experiences so that we wouldn't feel locked in. Yeah.
And you've used the opportunities you've been given.
I have, and I really feel that I've been fortunate.
Any regrets?
Frankly, no, I don't think so. Not yet.
That's a great thing to be able to say.
Yeah, I mean, at times you're kind of like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? But like they say, when one door closes, another one opens. And if you're given enough support and guidance, you take that new avenue.
At this time in 2011, Nola Nahulu continues to lead and conduct and teach, but she's also starting to think about passing the baton. Her plan going forward is to devote more time to mentoring. Like the talented conductors and teachers who gave her so many opportunities to work and learn, Nola is on the lookout for promising conductors who will keep Hawaii's choral tradition alive for future generations. For Long Story Short and PBS Hawaii, I'm Leslie Wilcox. Ahui ho kako.
For audio and written transcripts of this program and all episodes of Long Story Short with Leslie Wilcox, visit pbshawaii.org.
As a third grader, I know this seems really weird, but I actually choreographed Waltz of the Flowers from the Nutcracker.
And you didn't think you had a special musical talent?
Well, it probably wasn't that great, but I do know I did it. My mother sewed the costumes, and this is on the little stage, which is still at Waianae Elementary School. I did choreography for synchronized swimming when I was in high school because I learned, well, it was interesting to me, the artistic side of swimming.
But your life was full of music, so it was just a way of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.